Hello and welcome everyone. I can't say we always get dressed up for work every day like this.
I do, Sarah. Every day, even during lockdown, I wore my suit and tie.
Right, I remember that. But maybe we should, considering how beautiful our spectacular new headquarters are. And one thing we know for certain is we really wish that all of you were here with us tonight in person as we celebrate two very distinguished individuals whose values lie at the heart of NAASR's mission.
That's very true. So, well, why don't we take them on a tour right now, a special tour led by my son, Miles. Miles, take it away.
All right, let's go.
Good evening and welcome. I would like to thank each and every single one of you for your support and your participation in our virtual gala honoring a distinguished member of NAASR's Board of Directors, a philanthropist, musician, educator, and dedicated person advancing education in the United States and Armenia, Ed Avedissian. I'm the chairman of the board, but NAASR has been part of my life for the last 65 years. I was a teenager and had just immigrated from Jerusalem when I attended the Victory Banquet, celebrating NAASR's successful campaign to endow the first chair in Armenian Studies at Harvard in the 1950s. I was amazed and proud to see such a large gathering of the Armenian community and to see how excited everyone was that day in Memorial Hall at Harvard University. Visionaries like Manukyan and others did the work to establish the Harvard professorship at a time when there were almost no scholars of Armenian history, culture, and identity. Today, there are dozens and dozens. NAASR led the way by endowing chairs at Harvard and UCLA and supporting efforts at Columbia and other prestigious universities where there are now 13 endowed chairs. I have always been a proud member of NAASR, and now I am even prouder to witness a dynamic organization doing extraordinary work in advancing Armenian studies and securing its mission to the generations to come. NAASR's new headquarters was designed to create a global gathering place for students, professionals, researchers, scholars, and the public near and far to collaborate, explore, network, conduct research, and develop innovative ideas and projects relating to Armenian history, culture, and identity. I am highly proud of our staff and the board of directors for expanding our programming during the pandemic and thus becoming a truly global organization.
The tradition with NAASR runs deep in my family too, for 4 generations. My grandfather, Hovzep Ignatius, was part of that first campaign to fund a chair at Harvard University. His letter to NAASR sits in a frame on my desk. His familiar cursive handwriting that we used to treasure in his letters to us is scrawled across a note to NAASR's founder, Manu Gyang. "At last you persuaded me," he writes, and encloses a check. I don't think that even my grandfather, as much as he believed that we could do anything, ever imagined that one of his grandchildren would one day work for that same organization 60 years later, helping to keep Armenian culture and history alive. My father, Paul Ignatius, carries on the tradition. He has supported NAASR generously, been a featured speaker at several NAASR programs, and traveled to Armenia and historic Armenia on a NAASR trip that took us to Harvard, where my grandfather was born. To be there with my father and my brother Adi, breathing the same air, looking at the same view of the Golden Plain below us and the Euphrates River, and feeling the same breeze blowing from snow-capped peaks in the distance that my grandfather must have felt decades earlier, brought us into a world that transcends time. My brothers, David and Adi, and my sister Amy, are all members of NAASR and huge supporters, and at times, my brothers have even been MCs at NAASR galas. My son Joel leads off the 4th generation, having worked at NAASR a couple of summers and initially after graduation from college. Since my father now has 3 great-grandchildren, we are awaiting a 5th generation at NAASR when they get a little older. And why has NAASR meant so much to us? It's an organization with integrity and faithfulness to its mission of scholarship, and with a welcoming attitude toward all, whether you're Armenian or not. An organization drawing people together to learn more about this magnificent culture dating back thousands of years, as well as connecting people with modern-day Armenia. An organization helping to preserve our rich heritage as we step into the future. I am honored and humbled and extremely grateful to serve as NAASR's executive director with our amazingly talented staff, Mark, as well as Ani Babayan, our library curator, and Laura Yardumian, our program and administrative associate. And with our brilliant and generous board members, and with all of you, our members, supporters, and friends, together we're an incomparable team.
I've had the privilege of working at NAASR since 1998. Over the past 23 years, I've witnessed and I've tried to contribute to the continued growth in Armenian studies, a process that really began 66 years ago when NAASR was established. The number of events and the quantity of publications on Armenian subjects continues to increase. The number of programs NAASR organizes and co-sponsors has also increased dramatically. Before the pandemic, we were holding on average about a program a week in an expanding number of locations. Over the past year and more, due to the pandemic, of course, we've been limited to online events only, but we've tried to translate that limitation into a strength and are now truly reaching a global audience with our programming. One of the other important contributions NAASR makes is the supporting of scholars, and one of the ways we do that is through grants. The number of grants issued by NAASR, both on its own and in partnership with the Knights of Vartan Fund for Armenian Studies, has increased significantly over the past decade and more. Many of these grants go to graduate students and young scholars to support research for their dissertations, or for a book, or to allow them to participate in a conference. For some of them, there is no other likely means of support, so these grants, no matter how modest, make a real difference to them. This is one of the most important things we do, because without new people coming into Armenian studies, the field will not continue to grow. But why does any of this matter? How much more is there to say about the Armenian genocide, or the Battle of Avarar, or medieval Armenian architecture, or the evolution of the Armenian language, or Artsakh? NAASR's bookstore now contains close to 2,000 titles, and our library holds more than 30,000 volumes. Isn't it enough already? Well, of course it is not. The American Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865, about 4 years. It's estimated that around 60,000 books have been written about the Civil War. 60,000 books about one 4-year period. Admittedly, a very important 4 years in American history, but 60,000 books, or twice as many as NAASR has in its library, and probably more have been published as I've been talking to you. So I feel confident in saying there's a great deal more that needs to be done, and more books that need to be written about the 3,000 years of Armenian history and culture, and a lot happening in Armenia today that needs to be discussed and processed. And this is what NAASR strives to do, to provide a forum where all aspects of Armenia's past, present, and future can be discussed and analyzed, to connect the Armenian community to the work of scholars and researchers engaged in this important effort, and to connect scholars and researchers with each other and to support them to the extent that we are able. We think this is important work, and I am proud to be a part of it.
I've been lucky to attend and participate in a number of events with NAASR over the years. And in fact, there are so many that I'll only mention a few here. I'm so grateful that NAASR helped me organize a conference at Harvard on Armenian studies, where scholars in ethnomusicology, art history, religious studies, and cultural studies were able to show how Armenian studies can affect all of those fields. And that, in fact, Armenian studies has a lot to teach those fields. I appreciate NAASR's support of my work. I appreciate NAASR's support of others. I especially appreciate NAASR's support of young scholars who are really expanding the reach of this field with their innovative and interesting work. Thank you, NAASR. I'm so glad you're around.
Hello, I'm Huri Beberian, Melruni Family Presidential Chair in Armenian Studies and the Director for the Center of Armenian Studies at the University of California, Irvine. I want to express how grateful I am for the work that NAASR has been doing since its founding in 1955. NAASR has been instrumental in advancing Armenian studies and providing critical support to scholars, including my own graduate students and myself. Its success in connecting Armenian studies scholars with the wider public, especially as it went online with the pandemic shutdown, is unmatched. Thank you, NAASR. Best wishes for continued success. May you continue your extraordinary work for generations to come.
Hello, I'm Professor Sebu David Aslanyan, the Richard Avedissian Chair in Modern Armenian History at UCLA and the inaugural Director of the Armenian Studies Center at the Promise Armenian Institute. It gives me great pleasure to congratulate NAASR for many decades of success in promoting Armenian Studies scholarship. Under the leadership of its director, Sarah Ignatius, and the formidable Mark Mamigonian, NAASR has become a premier institution in our field. It has offered scholarships and funding opportunities for graduate students and scholars alike. It has been particularly helpful in facilitating my own research by providing access to scanned articles and books. And so my gratitude for NAASR is obviously immense, and I only wish it many years of continued success. For those listening to this, I encourage you to support NAASR to the best of your abilities. Thank you.
In honor of our distinguished awardee, Ed Avedissian, whom we will hear from very soon, and after these amazing tributes, we hope you will make a donation tonight to our Building for Eternity campaign. Your support will help us close the small gap remaining on our building and will safeguard its financial well-being for future generations by creating an Eternity Endowment Fund.
Donate online through our website at www.naasr.org or by calling our Building for Eternity hotline, which is open right now at 617-762-5912.
Your support will continue Ed Avedissian's and Vartan Gregorian's legacy of advancing education and preserving Armenian culture, history, and identity for future generations.
Again, there are two ways to give. Visit the NAASR website or call the number below. Thank you so much to all of you who have already given so generously. We truly appreciate your commitment and your support.
The National Association for Armenian Studies and Research has been a decisive force for good in society and in the academic world. It made the establishment of a professorship in Armenian studies possible at what may be called the most prestigious university in the United States of America. Throughout its existence, NAASR has worked tirelessly and with great conviction to increase global awareness of the existence of Armenia and the Armenians, their culture, their challenges, and their great potential. It is fantastic to be able to mention the support that NAASR has given over the years to students and established scholars in Armenian studies. I also benefited from NAASR's generosity and vision in both capacities. I'm very glad that as Professor of Armenian Studies at the University of Oxford, I have the chance to join forces with NAASR towards the further realization of our goals in Armenian studies and research.
I started this project as an undergraduate student while I was at UC Irvine, and I came upon this little bit of information about this gestural form of communication that was being used in Armenia at some point in history. There was not that much information about it, and so I tried to reach out to different sources, different organizations, to try and find more information about this very unique sign language. And one of the organizations I reached out to was NAASR, just seeking out more information. And how NAASR helped me, they forwarded my questions to people within their network who then helped me get more information, and over the years have provided me with scholarships to travel to Armenia and document the sign language. And so I'm very fortunate to have gathered so much data across about 3 years now, and to be able to present that data, the video footage at UCLA and at Harvard now and University of Michigan and all these other places.
Hi, I'm Olivia Hintlian, and I just wanted to say what I love about NAASR is their involvement in the Tufts community and their engagement with students in the Armenian community, and the fact that they put such an emphasis on Armenian students embracing their heritage and learning more about it. There are a lot of Armenians at Tufts who don't have the opportunities to take the classes at Tufts. There's only like 4 or 5 Armenian classes here. And because of that and scheduling differences, it's always great to have speakers come to Tufts and talk about Armenian culture and the history, and that would not be possible without NAASR. So thank you, NAASR.
The first time I met Ed Avedissian was several years ago at an event at Boston University. As we were getting acquainted, I asked him what he did professionally. Ed said, "I'm a musician and an investor." An unlikely combination. He further said, "God has been good to me, and it's time for me to give back." He told me about his Avedissian school project in the most underserved area of Yerevan, Armenia. The second time I met Ed was at the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. We were both waiting for our flight to Yerevan and had coffee together. Once we got to Yerevan, I introduced him to my brother, who was living there, and they became friends too, and got together each time that Ed and his wonderful wife Pamela visited Armenia. As our friendship flourished, Ed joined the NAASR board. He recognized NAASR's achievements of the past and believed in its future, advancing Armenian studies, promoting Armenian culture, history, and identity, and connecting scholars with the public worldwide to build a global community. Guiding his vision is his belief in the transformational power of education. As we were planning NAASR's new headquarters, Ed challenged me to be more ambitious to secure NAASR's mission for future generations as a global center. He said, "Make the plans and let's talk." His exceedingly generous gift has allowed NAASR to safeguard our 31,000 volume rare book Armenian Studies library on the second floor, while building an expansive new third floor for public programs, seminars, and gatherings. For Armenia, his vision is similar. He believes the advancement of Armenia depends on a highly educated new generation. He founded and served as principal benefactor of the Khoren and Shushanik Avedissian K-12 school, named for his parents. He and his wife Pamela attend graduations and address the students, taking personal interest and pride in their accomplishments. At a ceremony I attended, Pamela, who is not of Armenian ethnicity, but who learned the Armenian language, addressed the graduates in Armenian and congratulated each graduate by name without referring to her notes. A tremendous memory and a wonderful gesture. Ed is also a trustee of the American University of Armenia and principal benefactor of the AUA Parmas Avedissian Building, named after his late brother. He also made a transformative gift to the Rhode Island College of Pharmacy in honor of his brother. And of course, he is the principal donor for NAASR's spectacular headquarters. Ed is a humble man. As we were approaching the completion of our new building, I kept asking him how he would like the Avedissian name to appear on the building. He said, "Who am I to have my name on this fabulous building? I'm just a musician who has been a good investor. The building should bear the name of a person who has distinguished himself, someone scholarly, like Vartan Gregorian, whose achievements are in line with NAASR's mission and who has dedicated his entire life to educational advancement and the pursuit of knowledge." Vartan Gregorian graciously accepted. We are honored that our building bears Vartan Gregorian's name, and he is one of the foremost intellectuals in the world. And just as his life embodies the values at the heart of NAASR's mission, so too does Ed's. We wouldn't be here without his extraordinary philanthropy and inspirational life. We are grateful and honored that we can recognize Ed Avedissian this evening as our distinguished awardee. Before we hear from Ed himself, two other people would like to share a few words about him as well.
It gives me great pleasure to be able to participate, albeit virtually, in this gala event honoring a very good friend and staunch Armenian patriot, Mr. Ed Avedissian. Educating the youth of Armenia has been a lifelong passion for Ed, and today, thousands of young Armenians who have spent time in the classrooms of the Khoren and Shushanik Avedissian School in Yerevan are forever grateful to Ed for his vision and generosity. But as they say, you can't keep a good man down. Today, Armenians around the world joined the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research in celebrating their new headquarters, a new milestone in our quest to illuminate and preserve Armenian culture and history for the future generations. Again, thanks to the vision and generosity of Ed Avedissian. Generosity, not just generosity of the hand, but generosity of the heart, in proposing to name this new building after the world-renowned scholar and academic Dr. Vartan Gregorian, whom we just lost, but whose memory and contributions will be preserved for many generations to come. On behalf of the Armenian Missionary Association of America, I would like to congratulate the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research for all the good work that they do in preserving the Armenian heritage and culture. I also would like to express my thanks and appreciation to Mr. Avedissian for this act of generosity, and may God continue to bless you with good health and strength and more visions. Thank you.
There are few who represents a lifelong commitment to the homeland as much as Ed Avedissian. It is an understatement to say that Ed's belief in the power of education and extraordinary vision and generosity have made a tremendous impact throughout Armenia and the world. Ed Avedissian played a fundamental role in expanding and breathing new life into American University of Armenia. As the principal benefactor and chair of the construction committee of the Parames Avedissian Building, which was named in honor of his late brother Parames. Ed then went on to fund the Center for Health Service Research and Development and the Center for Business Research and Development at AUA. He didn't stop there and was the driving force behind the construction of the Gregorian and Shushanig Avedissian School in Yerevan's Malatya Sebastia district, and the renovations of the Nork Marash Medical Center and Hakhdagnak Village High School. Ed's unparalleled contribution to the advancement of education and preservation of Armenia's heritage have not only been recognized by the National Association for Armenian Studies and Research. Beyond his valued involvement in the boards of NAASR, the American University of Armenia, and the Armenian Missionary Association, he is the recipient of the prestigious Ellis Island Medal of Honor, the inaugural AUA President's Commendation, and the Moses Korenatsi Medal by the President of Armenia for his contribution to education, culture, literature, and the arts. People like Ed Avedissian allow us to continue our mission of advancing education and scholarship for Armenians worldwide. We are incredibly grateful for his commitment and vision. With more people like Ed, we will continue building a global community, expand horizons, and preserve and enrich Armenians' culture, history, and identity for future generations.
Welcome everybody to NAASR. I know we learn in school that the whole is equal to the sum of its parts, and we also know too there are exceptions to that where the whole exceeds the sum of its parts. And I think that is the story of this building, not only now as it stands, but as it stood some 70 years ago with the founders of this organization. So it's that history upon which this building is built. And there are a number of things that reflect the Armenian culture and arts. And we have to thank our Krafyan, our architect, who did a super job in putting this building together, incorporating just about everything. And that's why I say that when we start adding up the parts, it's greater when we get to the whole, much greater. The whole is much greater. And just to tell you a little bit, on the outside, we have these great bas-reliefs that are takeoff from a 13th century Armenian church, and they're between the first and second floor. And outside, we have a hand-carved door, which was done in Armenia and shipped here, and we're particularly proud of that. And also on the outside, we have the sculpture by Michael Aram, which is called Eternity. Now that's quite a thing to say, eternity. And he attributes it to the history of our culture, our past, our present, and what the future might be. Now, these are things I just talked about that are on the outside, and they are very welcoming and bringing you here to the inside. And right here where I'm standing, right on left and right of me, are the tiles in the color of tan, which was done specifically to mimic the tufkar, or volcanic stone, that is so often seen in Armenia. So that's another facet of Armenian culture. Outside of that, when we go through this building, there are beautiful walls and everything. That's white, great. But we also have the latest technology where we can communicate around the world at an instant and talk to any library or any group and exchange information with what we have and what they might have. So it increases the amount of information that is transferred from one to another. In days of old, you had to jump on a plane and spend half your life going crazy just trying to get to the next place. But here we are, we do it. And with that, the walls come tumbling down in this place. There are no walls. Why? Because we can easily communicate. We just get in the room and start in and dial up to where we need to go, and that's it. Now, on top of that, we've got the library here of Mardikian, which is a tremendous collection of books, artifacts, maps, documents that have been collected. And it's a special collection, and I'm happy to say we have begun to digitize those, and those will be available worldwide. Well, I must say we're extremely fortunate that we were able to talk to Vartan, Gregorian, whom you see right here, flashing that beautiful smile. Sarah, Ignatius, and Yervan Chekijan and myself went down and talked with him, and boy, he put us through the mill. And we didn't know whether or not he would accept. Fortunately, he did, and today we have his name on this building. That alone exceeds anything we could possibly hope for when you add that into the sum total of what is here and what's been accomplished here. I'll quote Vartan, Gregorian, who said he had inherited the legacy of Andrew Carnegie, and for him, it was his job to honor and be dutiful about carrying on the legacy of Andrew Carnegie. So that happened, and he did it beautifully. Now what's happened, it's come down one more generation. Vartan, you've left us a great legacy. How do we capture it? How do we deal with it? And how can we make it work? That is a great challenge ahead of us. So when we look at people like Vartan, what made him go? What made him take? It's extraordinary what it was. And it was when he married an old Yankee gal. They met at Stanford, they got married, and that started it going. And Vartan loved cars, and he had, oh, this was wonderful. He had a job at San Francisco State College. Oh, terrific. He had a wife. Everything is beautiful. He had a job. And his wife, Claire, said, is that it? Is life over? Well, it was hardly the case, because the next 60 years and some 76 honorary doctorates, 2 years to go through Stanford, a double doctorate, and the list goes on and on. But a really warm human being, concerned about his past and also about our future as Armenians. Now, one thing he did say about Claire, you know, at the end of a book, you always acknowledge this one, that one, and blah, 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 here, and also over there. And there was a long list of where Claire was involved in community activity. But the thing that impressed him most was the fact that she was the protector of his sanity. And I think doing what he was doing, that was most welcome. The other woman in his life that had a great influence was his grandmother, who was illiterate. Couldn't read, couldn't write, but she's the one that brought him up. And he said many times, he learned more from her than any book or any other thing that he learned. She was the one. With him, Vartan would say, my word is my bond. I will not fill out an application. I've never been fired, and my word is my bond. And that's what precipitated his turning down the presidency of Columbia. Why? Because he had given his word to Brown that he would finish raising $1 billion for the school. So he stayed. I mean, that's a man of his word. It wasn't on paper, but that's what he said, that's what he did. And I experienced the same thing myself. And I asked if he would come to our school in Armenia and say something to the kids. Okay, yeah. So it came time, and he had arrived with his entourage. And, you know, listen, Vartan, I know you're very busy. If something happens, you don't have to show up. Don't feel bad. He said, what do you mean? So I told you I'm coming. I will be there. And sure enough, he showed up. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. So these are the things we look to and relate to. And for us now, it's up to us to carry on this legacy. Can we do it? How much will it take? We don't know. But the challenge is there. And to inspire us, we've got right out there the metal sculpture that says eternity. And who knows what eternity is. I won't be around, but maybe somebody else will. But we'll find out one of these days. And hopefully we can put a small step forward here at NAASR. But I think really the biggest thing about NAASR is not what we all went through right now in these few minutes, but what is this building all about? It's all about Armenians coming into this building. This is your building, this is your home. If you want to come in here, read a book, you want to look at the bookstore, you want to sit down and just think, you can do all that. This is your place. If you've got a group that you want to meet with, this is the place to do it. And I would like nothing more to see this place open at 9 o'clock in the morning and close at 9 o'clock at night. And that, I would say, will give me my money's worth, and everybody else's as well. So that's where we are, and I hope you all will come and enjoy this great building. It is just super. We have a great concert hall upstairs. The acoustics are just marvelous, and we've had 2 events that were very well attended. We had to put in extra chairs. So we're looking forward to the future as it comes down, and in this fall, we're looking forward to have a grand opening 2. And you're all invited. Please come, enjoy it. This is your place, and this place cannot succeed without you. So be a part of it. Thank you very much.
We had hoped that Vartan Gregorian would be with us tonight to celebrate this evening, but instead we bear the deep loss of a towering intellectual, a remarkable humanitarian, and a sincere friend. As his nephew Ara said recently, on marking 40 days from his passing, Vartan believed in the good of human nature and devoted his entire life to the empowerment of the individual through education as a means of strengthening the society. At work, I pass his picture every day in the garden atrium of the building that bears his name, and I see the sparkle in his eye and feel his presence guiding us faithfully to fulfill our mission and radiating his positive, uplifting spirit. We offer a special in memoriam tribute tonight to Vartan Gregorian, given by Nubar Afan, an extraordinary visionary and humanitarian himself, whose Moderna vaccine is truly saving the world and who was a very close friend of Vartan's.
Thank you for the honor of letting me pay tribute to the lasting spirit named Vartan Gregorian. You see me today with Vartan looking over my shoulder. Over the many years that I knew Vartan, I always felt he was looking over my shoulder, and for that matter, over the shoulder of all those he knew. What was even more impressive, though, was that through his life's work, Vartan also looked over the shoulders of many thousands, if not millions more, most of whom he never knew. That's how I will always remember this extraordinary man I considered a mentor and friend, and that's how I wanted to appear to you on this special occasion. Vartan was a proud Armenian, patriotic American, and the ultimate man of the world. Never did I know a more accomplished, wise, and immensely revered figure, a respected academic, globe-trotting statesman, cultural icon, and connector extraordinaire. He was a guiding light, my mentor and my hero. And for me and so many other fellow immigrants, he was a compass and inspiration, showing us what was possible for foreign-born Americans. In describing Vartan, I recently proposed the formula that he was the multiplication, not simply addition, of several powerful attributes: wisdom, compassion, curiosity, and devotion. In his quiet, unassuming way, Vartan redefined the meaning of extraordinary. Like in sports, arts, science, or philosophy, when once in a generation or once in a century, there's someone who sets a new standard of what is possible against which others are compared, Vartan, through his life work, redefined what it would mean to be a humanist, a humanitarian, a teacher, and a leader. And in so doing, he also redefined what an Armenian could become on the world stage. It will be a very long time before anyone comes close to being compared to him. During a recent interview published in Brown University magazine, he was asked what made him so powerful. He said, "I've never been interested in power, but I am interested in knowledge. And it so happens that knowledge is power." All of us who knew him knew that he possessed shared, acquired, and recombined knowledge at a scale and velocity that was ever increasing. The power that comes from knowledge, when shared and applied, was the power Vartan most carefully wielded for the good of mankind. I had the honor of working closely with Vartan on an initiative we co-founded together with Ruben Vartanian called the Aurora Humanitarian Prize. Since 2015, we built a movement to honor the memory of those who saved Armenian lives more than a century ago during the Armenian genocide, by finding, honoring, and supporting the work of modern-day heroes who do that same work and save people today all around the world. What a thrill it has been to learn from him, to watch his special touch while chairing the selection committee members, themselves former country presidents and Nobel Peace Prize winners, and to witness his special relationship with Armenia, which found a very powerful outlet in the recent years through Aurora. In the context of Aurora, I'm reminded of a quote Vartan often cited from Bertolt Brecht's Galileo, saying, "Curse the land that needs heroes." He reminded us that we should all work to ensure a world in which we would not need them, but he also knew that human nature often created conflict and inequities that could be best countered by knowledge and active philanthropy. And speaking of knowledge, we all know the special place books and educational institutions held in his heart. He once said, "Libraries and museums are the DNA of our culture. Cemeteries do not provide earthly immortality to men and women. Libraries, museums, universities, and schools do." That was from his speech at the White House in 2002, and it was cited in his autobiography, The Road to Home, My Life and Times. Armenians have managed to overcome the despair of a century ago, and today there's an even more pressing need for the rebirth of our nation, something Vartan often mentioned in his recent speeches to Armenian audiences. We have a long way to go, and will always need Vartan's guidance. While he is not with us any longer, fortunately, he occupies many shelves in our collective library of memories. We can carry on with the mission he left with us, working together to further honor his legacy. We will miss him dearly and keep his spirit alive. Thanks, Vartan, for everything you did for us.
We are honored to have our building bear the name of Vartan Gregorian and to continue his profound legacy. And we are so grateful to Ed Avedissian for his extraordinary vision and generosity in bringing it about.
We hope you feel the same way and will help our Building for Eternity campaign by making a donation tonight. Thank you all so much to those of you who have already donated so generously and made this evening such a great success.
I want to thank our virtual Gala committee members for organizing this wonderful evening. Arlene Saryan Alexander, Sarah Ignatius, Mark Mabigonian, Margaret Mgrublian, Sylvia Parsons, and Judith Saryan, as well as Vartush Varadian, an extremely talented artist who designed our invitations. I also want to thank our very generous Building for Eternity virtual Gala sponsors for your commitment and dedication. And all of the virtual Gala donors for your much needed support. And deep thanks to each of you who donated so wholeheartedly to NAASR's new headquarters at any stage over the past 5 years. I'd like to thank our 4 dedicated staff members who advanced NAASR's mission and multitude of projects and who accomplished the work of 2 or 3 times as many people. You heard from Sarah and Mark tonight, but I also want to recognize the excellent work of Ani Babayan, our library curator, and Laura Yardumyan, our program and administrative associate. I give great thanks to our board of directors, whose generosity and vision have carried forward NAASR's mission, which began over 65 years ago and continues at the forefront of Armenian studies. And I extend my respect and thanks to the stellar scholars who have enriched all of our lives and those of generations to come for your fascinating discoveries, insights, and research. Heartfelt thanks to all of the people who made beautiful tributes this evening. And sincere appreciation to Nubar Afeyan for sharing your moving tribute and personal recollection honoring Vartan Gregorian and for conveying so well the loss that all of us are feeling. With deep gratitude, respect, and admiration, I thank Ed and Pamela Avedissian for your wisdom, vision, and generosity. And finally, I thank all of you for participating in our virtual gala. I hope to see you soon in person. Have a wonderful rest of the evening.